At my brother's promotion party, my father stood up and said, "At least one of my kids made me proud." He laughed as everyone turned to look at me sitting alone. I smiled politely, but inside I was burning. 2 years later, when I surpassed them all, my father tried to take credit, and I publicly told everyone exactly where he had been when I built everything myself. I'll never forget the way my dad looked at me that night, like I was a stain on his perfect picture. The way he stood there, drink in hand, proud grin on his face, and said, "Well, I guess at least one of my kids made me proud." He laughed. Everyone turned to me. I was sitting at the very end of the table. Alone. No plus one. Wearing the same hoodie I'd had on all day because I didn't have time to change after doing grocery deliveries in the rain. Some people chuckled. Others shifted awkwardly in their chairs. My mom gave me a soft look, but she didn't say anything. I smiled.
Tight.
Polite. Pretended it didn't matter. But inside, I was burning. Let me back up. We grew up in a working-class neighborhood just south of Seattle. My dad was the kind of man who believed in one path: go to college, get a good job, climb the ladder, retire with a pension. He worked at Boeing for 32 years. Same job, same lunch, same complaints. He called people who jumped around lazy. Start something and finish it, he'd say. My brother Derek followed that path perfectly. Star athlete.
Honor roll.
Got into UW on a scholarship, then interned at a startup that exploded. By 26, he was leading a team of engineers designing robotics tools for shipping companies. My dad loved showing him off. Told every neighbor, every coworker, every guy at the bar, "Derek's gonna be a millionaire," he'd brag. "Guy's got a damn corner office." Meanwhile, I dropped out of community college after a year. Tried music. Tried selling vintage clothes online. Worked at a coffee shop. Did freelance delivery. Moved apartments 6 times in 4 years. It didn't look great on paper, especially to someone like my dad. He called me the wanderer. "You're always chasing shiny objects," he'd say. "You ever gonna pick something and actually stick with it?" I was building something, but no one could see it yet, including me. Then came the party. Derek's promotion came with a huge raise and a new title: Director of AI Operations. I didn't know what that meant, but my dad sure did. He rented a private room at Prime Cut Steakhouse, the kind of place where they hand you the wine list like you already know what you're doing. I didn't. I almost didn't go. But my mom called and said it would mean a lot to her. So I showed up.
Vet change.
Hoodie. Sneakers. I didn't have time or money to get new clothes. I'd just finished hauling cases of bottled water up 3 flights of stairs for a customer who didn't even tip. When I got there, nobody even greeted me. Not really. Derek waved. My mom hugged me. My dad barely looked up from his scotch. I sat at the end of the long table next to a couple of Derek's friends who didn't know who I was. The dinner went on for a while. Toasts, speeches, applause. Derek was glowing. He earned it. I don't hate him. He works hard. He's just not me. Then Dad stood up, raised his glass, cleared his throat. "I gotta say," he started, "I never thought I'd see the day. My son, running a division of an AI company. Smartest guy in the room. Always has been." A few people clapped. My mom wiped her eyes. And then he said it. "I guess at least one of my kids made me proud." He laughed, like it was a clever joke. Then he sat back down, took another drink, and nodded like he'd just dropped some killer punchline. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt my face get hot. But I didn't flinch. Didn't say anything. I smiled like it was fine. But it wasn't fine. I left before dessert. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my studio apartment and stared at my laptop. My bank account had $312 in it. I was behind on rent. Again. But all I could think about was that smug look on my dad's face. I opened an old notebook where I'd written down half-baked business ideas over the years. Furniture flipping, online resale, vintage pieces, restoration. I stayed up all night sketching out a plan. Next day, I hit up every thrift store and estate sale I could find. Picked up a pair of old chairs for $40, cleaned them up, took photos, listed them online. Sold them in 3 days for $220. Something clicked. For the next 6 months, I worked 14 to 16-hour days. Delivery jobs in the morning, resale hustle in the afternoon, furniture flips late into the night. I watched YouTube videos on how to refinish wood, fix legs, match vintage styles. I made mistakes, lost money, but I kept going. I quit my delivery job 8 months in, bought a small van, rented a garage. By month 10, I had repeat customers asking for custom pieces. By month 14, I hired a guy to help with pickup and repairs. By month 20, I signed a lease on a small showroom near Alki Beach. I didn't take a single dime from anyone. No loans. No gifts. No help. I built it all myself. 2 years to the week after that party, I bought my first home. West Seattle. 3 bedrooms. Ocean view. Paid in full with cash. And then I did something I wasn't sure I'd ever do. I invited my family over. Not for revenge.
Not yet.
I just wanted them to see it. My mom showed up with a pie. Derek brought wine. Dad came with a stiff back and a stiff drink. I gave them the tour. Showed them the restored pieces I was most proud of. The office space. The workshop. My tiny showroom. Derek was impressed. I could tell. He asked a few smart questions. My mom smiled like she couldn't believe it. And then Dad said it. Well, I always told Jake he had it in him. I used to tell him all the time to get serious. Glad he finally listened. Something in me froze. He kept going. Takes a little tough love sometimes, but hey, he made it, right? I looked around the room. They were all quiet. Nobody said anything.
So I did.
I stood up and said, "You want to know where you were when I built all this?" They looked confused. "You were laughing at me at Derek's party. You said, 'At least one of my kids made me proud.'" My mom whispered my name. Derek looked down. "You weren't helping me. You were mocking me. I built this while you thought I was a loser." Dad opened his mouth like he was going to deny it, but I kept going. I flipped nightstands out of a storage unit while eating canned soup for dinner. I worked 2 jobs while fixing up broken coffee tables in my living room.
You didn't believe in me.
"You just waited for me to fail." He said, "Come on, Jake, it was a joke. You're being too sensitive." I stepped forward.
No.
"You don't get to rewrite this. You don't get credit now." He didn't say anything. Just looked at me. I walked out onto the deck. The air was cold but clean. The kind of quiet you only hear near the water. And for the first time in years, I felt something heavy fall off my chest. I thought maybe after that night, he'd leave me alone. I thought the silence that came after my words would say it all. I was wrong. 2 weeks after the dinner, my dad called me. That alone was weird. He never calls. He said he was in the neighborhood and wanted to stop by. I didn't want him to, but I was curious. Maybe, just maybe, he was coming to say he was sorry. He showed up wearing a dress shirt and khakis, like he was trying to look important. He walked into my house like he owned it, touched everything. "Solid floors," he said, tapping his boot. "What did you pay for this?" "I paid cash," I said. "Bought it outright." He whistled and shook his head.
Damn.
"Never thought you'd pull something like this off." I waited, but he didn't say sorry. He didn't admit anything. Instead, he sat down at my kitchen island, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You ever thought about flipping houses? You've got an eye for it. We could go in together. You know, family business." I stared at him. He kept going. "I've got some money put away. Retirement stuff. You've got the talent. I could be the investor. You could be the front." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I realized right then he still didn't get it. "You mean I do the work and you take credit?" I asked. He waved me off. "Come on, Jake. You'd have never gotten here if I hadn't pushed you. All that tough love. It lit a fire under you, didn't it?" I took a deep breath. My hands were clenched under the counter. He smiled, like he was being generous, like offering me his money was some grand favor. Then he said, "This place reminds me of that listing your mom and I looked at a few years back, the one on Orchard Street." I really wanted that one, but your mom thought it was too risky. You ended up buying this, huh? Kind of funny how it worked out. I knew the house he meant. Same neighborhood. Same view. That one had sold 6 months ago. I narrowed my eyes. You were trying to buy this place? He looked at me and said, yeah.
Had my eye on it for a while.
Funny how life works, right? That's when it hit me. He hadn't just come to see how I was doing. He came to sniff around. He came because he wanted in. On what I built. On something he couldn't have. I looked him straight in the eye and said, you don't get to be part of this. Not now. He looked surprised. What are you talking about? I'm your father. No, I said. You're a man who mocked me in front of everyone I love. And now that I've made it, you want to act like you were part of the journey. You weren't. He stood up, red in the face. You're being ungrateful. I didn't even raise my voice. You're being dishonest. He stormed out without another word, slammed the door, so hard the window shook. I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. A month later, I got a call from my Uncle Rick, Dad's younger brother. Hey, you free for lunch? We need to talk. We met up at a diner halfway between his place and mine. He slid into the booth and didn't order anything but coffee. He looked at me and said, your dad's been talking, saying you're using family money, that he helped fund your business, that you're cutting him out of what he helped start. I nearly dropped my fork. He what? Rick nodded. Told Aunt Sherry you'd beg him for help after some failed ventures. Said you owe him a cut. My throat went dry. He was lying. Not just lying, but going around telling people he funded my business. Taking credit. Again. But this time in a way that could actually hurt me. Rick leaned forward and said, I didn't believe him. You don't strike me as the type. But people are starting to talk. That's when I realized he wasn't just trying to insert himself into my life. He was trying to rewrite history again. But on a bigger scale. And this time, it could cost me everything. After that lunch with Uncle Rick, I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. I kept thinking about the lie my dad was spreading, telling people he helped me build my business. That I begged him for money. That I owe him a cut. He wasn't just embarrassing me anymore. He was poisoning my name in front of people who knew me.
Client.
Family. Neighbors. I'd worked too hard to let that slide. So I started making calls. I talked to my old landlord, the guy who rented me that dusty one-car garage where I started. Asked if he'd mind putting something in writing about our original lease. He agreed. Then I pulled up all my early bank statements. I printed every receipt from furniture pickups. Every dollar that came in or out. I found old emails. Me begging thrift stores to hold pieces for 24 hours because I didn't have cash yet. And I called my very first customer, Sarah, an older lady in Tacoma who bought a mid-century side table from me for $75.
She remembered me.
Still had the piece. I tell people about you all the time, she said. You showed up soaking wet and still helped me carry it upstairs. That made me smile. I put together everything, timelines, records, messages, photos. Not because I planned to sue him. Not yet anyway. But because I knew I needed proof. Then I sent a group email to my entire extended family. Subject: the truth about my business. I kept it short. There's been talk that I started my business using family money. That I owe someone a share. I want to clear this up now with facts. I built this from zero. No loans, no gifts, no backing. I worked nights. I delivered groceries. I flipped furniture out of a storage unit while eating canned beans and sleeping 4 hours a night. I have every receipt, every invoice, and every bank record to prove it. If anyone's heard otherwise, just know this. It's a lie. And if you want the full truth, I'm happy to share it. Jake, within an hour, I got responses. Some were supportive. Aunt Sherry wrote back, "Good for you, Jake. I always knew you had grit." Uncle Rick just replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Classic. But then came the response I didn't expect.
Derek.
He asked if we could talk in person. We met up the next evening at a quiet bar we both liked. No big crowd. Just us and a sleepy bartender. He looked uncomfortable. I didn't know he was saying that stuff, he said. I nodded.
Yeah.
Well, he is. Derek stirred his drink. He came to me a few weeks ago. Said we should partner up. Open a design showroom. Said you owed him for starting you off. I didn't believe it. But I didn't ask you either. That's on me. That hit harder than I expected. I'd never been close to Derek, but we weren't enemies. We just lived in different lanes. I always figured he didn't care either way. But now he looked ashamed. He's trying to take credit for something he had nothing to do with, I said. I'm not letting it happen. Derek nodded. I get it now. He did the same thing to me once. Years ago, when I got that job in Austin, he told everyone he pulled strings. He didn't. I got it on my own. That surprised me. I'd always thought Derek was Dad's favorite. Maybe he was. But even golden boys get bruised. I'm sorry, he said quietly. We sat there for a while, without speaking. Then he said something I didn't expect. You know that house? The one you bought? I nodded. That's the one Dad wanted for retirement. He's obsessed with it. Told Mom he was going to use his pension to buy it in a year or two. I blinked. It wasn't like I stole it from him. I literally bought the one house he'd been dreaming about. No wonder he was spiraling. After Derek told me about the house, his house, I finally understood why my dad had been circling like a vulture. He hadn't just come to see me succeed. He'd come to watch what he thought was his dream get handed to someone he didn't think deserved it. The guy who didn't go to college. The one who chased dumb ideas. The one he laughed at in front of 24 people. And now I was living in the house he secretly planned to buy for himself. That's why he was angry. That's why he was lying. He wasn't proud of me. He was jealous. That night, I sat in my home office until 2 a.m. and wrote down everything. Every word from Derek, every lie I'd heard, every little moment from that damn steakhouse party. I wasn't going to carry the weight anymore. I wasn't going to stay quiet while he tried to drag my name through the mud. So I made a decision. 3 weeks later, my mom called me in tears. Not from sadness, she was furious. What the hell is this? She said. Why would you embarrass him like that? She was talking about the interview. I'd agreed to be profiled in a small business magazine in Seattle. They wanted a story on self-made entrepreneurs under 35. I told them everything, the truth, no exaggeration. I talked about the day of Derek's party.
I even quoted what my dad said.
Word for word. I said, that night, I realized I was never going to get his approval. I stopped trying. I built my business alone. While he mocked me, I worked. When I succeeded, he tried to take credit. And now, I own the house he spent years dreaming about. I didn't say his name, but anyone who knew us knew. The article blew up more than I expected. People shared it. My showroom got new visitors. I even got invited to speak at a local community college. My mom was mortified. My dad didn't speak to me for a month. When he finally did, it was at a 4th of July cookout at Aunt Sherry's. He walked up to me holding a beer and said, "You really think you're better than me now?" I stared at him.
No.
I just finally know who I am. That's the part you hate. He sneered. You embarrassed me. I didn't flinch. You did that to yourself. You wanted credit for something you never touched. I gave you the truth, not revenge. He threw the beer can into the bushes and walked off. 2 months later, I heard from Derek again. Dad had put his name on a loan application without telling him. He'd forged Derek's signature to try and get financing for a renovation property. Derek found out when the bank called for a follow-up. He shut it down fast. I guess Dad thought Derek would cover for him, the way no one ever had to cover for me. This time, it backfired. Derek told Mom. She was devastated. She finally saw the man she'd been defending. They separated a week later. I haven't talked to my father since. He lost more than just his image. He lost control of the story, of the family, of the version of reality where he was the hero. I wasn't innocent either. I used the article to make a point. I exposed him without warning. Maybe I could have done it softer, but I'd swallowed his poison for years. I was done protecting someone who only ever tore me down. Now I live in the house he wanted. Every morning, I drink coffee on the deck and watch the ferries go by. Sometimes I wonder if he drives past just to see it. To see me. But the truth is, I don't care. I stopped building for his approval. I started building for me. And I built something no one can take away.